Um, okay. And so, and it's hard to always review except because of the nature of these kind of classes, where we didn't pay, it's not college. Oh, I guess not everybody shows up to their college class either. But anyway, this is my own outline. And oh, here's Ethel. How exciting. Ethel's going with me in May. Hello, Ethel. I can't see you, but it's nice to see you. You're here. Okay, so this is just how I keep track of what we did. I have another place. I have a record I keep tracking. But so this is the tefillot that we did, and so I want to share some of them. Yeah, here is Ruchi's book, the copy of it. So we always say Moda Ani in the morning, Moda Ani lefanecha, Melech Chai v'Kayam, Shechazarta bi nishmati b'chemla, Rabba emunatecha. I had a cute little interaction with one of my chavrutas, the people I learn with. She went to some retreat and they were talking about gratitude, and the Buddhists say this and the Hindus say this, and she said she felt like going like Adrian. You could appreciate this. She was like the Jews start with it. We start every day with it, and it starts with Modeh. It's not even like I am, Ani Modeh, which we've talked about before. It's Modeh Ani, like the first word in the morning is Modeh. And I just thought I was like, good for you. But then she's like, I didn't feel like sharing. I'm like, okay, also good for you. Here's Usher Yatzar. Not going to say it, but you know that we've handed it out, discussed it, and it allows us to be grateful for the way that the body works, obviously connected to going to the bathroom, which makes all of our little children giggle. But this, uh, even though those are the details, it's really about the wonder of the body that was created and that it works the way it does. It has its openings and closings, and it also has a lot of boundaries. Like this thing, God willing, we're healthy, doesn't go this way and this doesn't go that way. And so I have also reviewed with you Elokai Neshama, which is just the nickname for it. Those are just the first two words. If you can see this here, Elokai and then Neshama, which means, oh, here you can see it here in transliteration. My God, the soul that you have given me. Not going to go through it all. I know that I've handed it out and you should have it in that little booklet that hopefully we're creating. And I'm just going to read this. I think hopefully I'll work on other people reading it, but I want to move through this till we get to some interesting stuff. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvota v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. And so I just want to make sure that we're all covered. By having that being said, as we delve into learning Torah, because there is a bracha that we say in the morning before learning Torah. I suppose sometime we could review again this English. We have done it before by making the words of Torah sweet in our mouths and in the mouths of your people Israel, which is kind of our responsibility, mostly as mothers, which is the topic we're into now, the matriarchs. But it's up to us to model for our children the sweetness of, can you guys see that? This craziness with my WhatsApp? I hope you can't see that coming up. All right. Anyway, just the beauty of our ability to not only work on seeing the words of the Torah and its instruction is beautiful and sweet, but also our chance to give it over to our children, which is something that from seeing who's on this call, I think we've all spoken about at one time or another. And then I went through what's called Birchat HaShachar in Hebrew. It's just called morning blessings. That sounds better in Hebrew than it does in English. And we did a couple of them, the first and the second. I'm just going to go here. I think I meant to do this last week and didn't do it, but here's number 2, 3, and number 4. They're not numbered here. They're numbered on my outline, but just going to tell you about them briefly. So we continue to move through tefillah and other parts that can, put the bookends on our choreography of Jewish life every time we learn together. So this one I know we mentioned before. It's Shelo Asani Goy. So instead of referring it to it with the actual full blessing, which would have Hashem's name, which we don't say unless we actually have to, whether it's connected to an actual blessing, which is sort of like a rising up of the activity. We've talked about this last time. So therefore, it's commonly referred to as like the end, like not the bracha part. So that's why instead of me saying Baruch Atah Adonai, I'm saying it because I'm teaching Eloheinu Melech Haolam Shelo Asani Goy. I'm just saying Shelo Asani Goy. And we did speak about that unfortunately the word guy, well, I shouldn't say unfortunately. I think that it was a defense mechanism for so many years in Europe and possibly even in African countries of being persecuted. And so it not only in this blessing, what it really means is the reverse of what it says here, that it's not, thank you for making me not making me one of those, you know, and it has what is now a derogatory word, and it makes us cringe, especially in the age today where we're trying so hard to even things out. Like, goy, you could even think about what's in the news about certain people on maybe The View, let's say, who are taking away the strength of what, the importance of what happened to us, let's just say. Okay, so that's not what it means. It means the reverse, which is, I'm so glad you made me a Jew. I cannot speak to why it was written this way. I can look into it, but what it means is thank you for the opportunity for this elevated way of life and for having access to the Torah, which would be my guidebook, God willing. That's what we go for. Let me just see who else is here. Who else am I talking to? Okay. Hi, Ethel. Right, fine. All right, so that's the yikes. Did I just lose it on you guys? Okay, I'm gonna go back to it. So that's the third bracha, and the fourth one, scrolling, is Shelo Asani Eved or Aved. I should see. I'll go see how the grammar is. Okay, there's number 3, and here's number 4. Aved, Aved. Okay. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shelo asani Aved. Okay. So again, that you have not made me, that you have not made me. Same in the Hebrew. Not made me an Aved, which is a slave. Anybody want to unmute and just quickly give their view or their thoughts when I say that this is one of the things we say every single morning, and it says, "You have not made me a slave."
Well, like we were in Egypt. Thank God we're not like that, right?
Yeah, I think it's
Or
hard to.
no?
No. It's Egyptian slavery was a very long time period. It's hard for us to relate to now, even if, and I'm not taking away from, again, from the horrific nature of what was done to us 80 years ago, right, in the
Right.
Holocaust. And that was, what was it, a 15-year period, a 10-year period? I mean, I'm saying like the build up. This was a 400-year period of consistent backbreaking labor and the way that we were treated. And that, I mean, there were so many elements of what it meant to be a slave in Egypt that, yes, that one of the meanings of this is that I am so glad that I am not in that situation. I'm aware our people were, our nation was, and I'm really grateful for today, for 2022 or 5782, where I'm not living like that. Okay. There's another meaning briefly, and then we'll move on out of this, is that you've made me with free choice. And that one of the translations or one of the descriptions of what it means to be a slave is that you're at the mercy of somebody else's directives or demands. And so you don't have a lot of your ability to have your own thoughts, your own thought process. You can't make choices for yourself. You can't go here, you can't go there. You can only do what they told you. And so uh, this also means that you've given me free choice. And free choice, those words are brought up a lot in our Jewish heritage. So another time, but not unimportant. Okay.
Can I say
I
something
like your
about what
answer
they said?
better.
Okay, fine. Good. They're both good answers. All right. This came up because I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I had like my big, I thought I was gonna write on this thing and bring it with me, and finally put it on my easel, my big whatever this is, my sticky easel pad, and start collecting these words. But this is better. This is easier. Today, my daughter and her carpool mate were studying for their Ivrit test, which is trying to get to memorize the Shorashim or the Shoresh. And I know that we've discussed before. I believe I brought it up, and so have other teachers at the L'chaim Center or wherever you've been. But I wanted to review it because as I was listening, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And I've been meaning to say it for a bit. And it does help you. The reason I'm bringing this up, in addition to it just coming up this morning, is that when you get inside the Siddur, the prayer book, if you're at a Shabbat service, or if you're even in this, a class where they're describing a bracha, or if you find yourself on a holiday in a machzor, which gives you how we walk through the holidays, not through the Shabbat services. They have differences and things that are added. If you recognize a shoresh, a root word, you kind of get a little excited, gotta say, because you start to be able to put things together and you have more confidence in your being a Jew with Hebrew. I will never be able to do what Ali and Rabbi David are doing because not I don't live there and I'm not in a ulpan, and none of us are that I know of, and she's in ulpan every day. So this might be the extent to which I get to understand Hebrew for today, but knowing the different shorushim that come up in prayer are good. They're helpful and I think they're a Jewish confidence builder. So here we go real quickly. Almost all Hebrew words are built upon a root letters, which are called in Hebrew a shoresh. And I put it here for you in Hebrew. It's usually three consonants. Sometimes it's four. Every once in a while it's two, like av, which means father, abba. Okay, words are formed in such ways where small manipulations can create many different but related meanings. When the root consonants appear with various vowels and additional letters, a variety of words, often with some relation to meaning, can be formed from a single root. So I thought this was kind of an interesting example. The words for letter, which is mechtav, and write, kotev, do not have kind of base connection in English, meaning that the actual words don't have the same base. Obviously, when you're writing or using letters, so what we're doing is connected, but the actual word does not. In Hebrew, however, the language was created from the thing, which was created by God speaking it into the world in the story of creation. And so they're all connected, frequently, mostly all connected. So in Hebrew, the word michtav, I don't have vowels. Sometimes it's hard for me to put the vowels on, so I just want to, yeah, okay. Michtav, which means a letter, and kotev, to write, derived from the same shoresh, and here it is. It's a three-letter shoresh. A chaf, a te, a tuf, and a vet. Katav. CKTV. Are we all good so far? Okay. Oh, you'll like this, Liz. They were saying these things about music this morning and singing, and there's different words in Hebrew, but to be musical, or michazemer, comes from the word zemer, which is a song, and michazer is to play. So michazemer is being musical. So they put these two words went together. Some of it, when I say went together, is more of a historical lesson, which is how Ben Gurion sort of rejuvenated and brought back to life the Hebrew language once the state of Israel was established, and then he created more. Not everything was in our history. He had to create more what a current words that help people live in our times, not, I don't know. They didn't have cars and trains back then. Okay, printing presses. Shalom. I love this one. They were doing it in the car. Shin lamed mem. So I have it here in English. Shin lamed mem leads to the words we all know most is shalom, peace, well-being. I'm sorry I didn't put the Hebrew here. I see I forgot the Hebrew. Okay, hit shalem, it was worth it. So interesting. I mean, like I'd have to think what from the root of shalom, peace, leads you to it was worth it. Or shulam, already paid for it. Like, at the end of your dinner when you're all, I don't know, somebody's covering the check, it was paid for. Mishulam, when the mem is there, paid for in advance. Mishlam, perfect. And I loved this one when I first learned this, that shalem, which means complete or whole. Sometimes we refer to having or wanting shlemut in Hebrew is a word that some people refer to, and it means I would just like some completion or like wholeness on this project or something in my relationship and move on. I just want shlemut already, which is connected to shalom, peace. So when I learned that one, that was fascinating. There's a couple other ones where I was like, "Boop," but I like that one. And they had it this morning in the car. Torch. A torch is a misua. That's a sin, not a shin. Misua. So this leads to the word nasi, which means either a prophet or a prince, or it also means the president in Israel. In Hebrew, it means president. It also can lead to the word nisuin, which means marriage. I thought that was interesting. Like, what about torch? I guess we could think of something, torch related to marriage. And the last one I'll share here, and then we'll move on. And then I'll wait. I'll leave a space for questions if you have them. Is the word for us, the Hebrews. So in Hebrew here, it's ivrim. That's in plural. It would be an ivri. Because on Abraham was called Abraham ha-ivri, the Jew. Abraham, the Hebrew. The biblical term is ivri. So he was Abraham ha-ivri. And it means to transverse, to cross over, to pass over, or sometimes even, I don't have it here, on the other side. So this word Aver that was connected to Abraham meant that his belief system was on the other side. It's used sometimes to pass over the river. It's also used on Yom Kippur. You'll hear it a lot, Aver, when Hashem passes over Moshe and Moshe turns his face away. So anyway, we are the people on the other side, by the way. Sometimes for good, and sometimes that's a hard one because I don't think people see us so well but okay, it's the reality. So we worked on Shorashim or Shoresh, and we'll continue to go back to that. Anybody have a question or a comment? I'm opening let's see my screen up before I move on. No, no, okay. Moving on. Hold on a minute, let me just make this smaller. All right. Ooh, I didn't open my thing. Hold on, open my thing about Adar. I'm going to stop my share for a second. All right, today is the first day of Adar, even though it's a 2-day Rosh Chodesh, and you might have heard about it from Eve yesterday. It was celebrated first yesterday and then today. Yesterday was really the last day of the month of Shvat. So, did you, if you went to her class or you've been to a class, can you tell me anything about this month of Adar?
Joy.
Joy's good. Tis. It is. Anything else?
It's a double. It's a double. It's a leap year.
That's it. That's what we're going to do if I have the good fortune to open up something at this moment, and if not, I'll just talk to you about it. It is a leap year. Sometimes because the holidays need to happen. Excuse me, I can't find it here. I'm not sure. I'm just going to talk to you about it. One of the importances of the Jewish calendar is to keep the holidays where they belong in the seasons. A lot of the holidays are connected to seasons, mostly agricultural cycles. And so one way to correct the solar lunar calendar, lunar solar calendar, is that another Adar gets added. It's the only time we're going to get one of these months added. You're never going to get another Tishrei. Oh, thank God, because there's a lot of holidays. No another Tishrei. You don't get another Sivan. You don't. I mean, another Nisan. You don't get to go through Pesach twice, but you get a double Adar. I apologize for not being able to find that sheet. I wrote it upstairs, but it's Adar Aleph and Adar Bet, or you have Adar the first Rishon or Adar Sheni. So we are in the first Adar. Okay, go ahead.
How often does that happen?
Every 19, every 3 years in English, but every 19 years according to the Jewish calendar. So every 3 years you come across this. So that is this year. It's a Jewish leap year. Obviously, it's not a leap, it's a Jewish leap year. So the question that always comes up for people who are watching this, if you're watching, the month and the double month, especially because the holiday of Adar is, yeah, I saw Julie mention it.
Purim.
Great. Okay. Purim. So usually people know Purim is in Adar. Fine. Do you celebrate Purim in the first Adar or the second Adar? Right. Right. Liz, I've got some good stuff here. I love the this because I love it, and I love the this because I love it. We're all catching it all. Yes, you celebrate everything in the second month. And so the Talmud discusses, which would have been on my beautiful sheet, and Tani, I actually happen to know where it was discussed in the Gemara, in the Talmud. Since there are 2 Adars this year, and there is a mitzvah, an actual mitzvah to welcome in or escort joy in the month of Adar because of the nature of what happened to us during the times of the Babylonian exile and the holiday of Purim. Would you be able to escort Purim in only in the second Adar? Or can you do it in both, the first and the second Adar? It's a big discussion, and there are two answers, yes and no. I was
Why,
speaking with
what,
my,
can
what,
I ask, why is it in the second? Why is it celebrating the second Adar and not the first?
my understanding, and I don't think I have the best. I think you can find maybe a more detailed understanding, is that because the second Adar, which is the Adar, is the one that's constantly in our calendar. And it's only every once in a while that we have to add a second one in, which is more of a correction of where our holidays land, so that, we don't have, mostly Pesach doesn't happen in the middle of this, what we're experiencing today in the winter. And so the real 14th of Adar, which is when Purim is in the actual Adar, which is in the second Adar. So next year, you're not going to call it Adar Sheni or Adar Bet. It's just going to be Adar. But this year, we have to relate to it as Adar Aleph and Adar Bet. It'll have to be shown Sheni, okay? I'm gonna assume that was an okay, and we're gonna move on. Yeah. Ken and I were talking about it, because then is the question, can you increase joy in both or in one? Because the mitzvah is to increase joy. So we decided that, yeah, exactly, Liz. Like, everybody can use some joy. Things are challenging. You feel down. So let's just increase it on both months. Exactly. So this is the month of Adar, as is the next month. And so we will be happy or joyful, or search for it. We'll work towards it. We'll work towards it. Okay, finally there. I'm finally at the stuff that we were doing before. Tell me if you have any questions. I can catch you up real quickly, or somebody else in class can catch you up. If you were not here, you can raise your hand if you want to be caught up. I could do it myself. Liz, you want to be caught up a little bit? Not really. Moving on. Okay.
I'm fine. I'll get it. Just go
You'll get
on.
it. Yeah, we were just reading through what I find to be a beautiful introduction, and then a spiritual introduction in this book that we're reading through, the Sisterhood of the Copper Mirrors, which just continues to give more and more understanding, not only of what a Jewish woman is, what we can be, the spiritual inheritance that we receive from our imahot, from the women, but also it just had a lot of great stuff about how we connect to God. There's one thing that was, who else? Laura wasn't here. I'm trying to think who wasn't here. There was a sentence talking about the fact that God was not, we loved this, was not a man, is not a man. God is not a woman. God is not a person. But the big whoop was that God is not Jewish. So just wanted to put that out there before we move on, because it's cool. I think it's cool. Okay, let me just make sure yeah, I got the screen shared. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna keep reading. We're gonna keep going through this. What time is it? 1:30. Fine. Just have to make you guys smaller. Doesn't that sound terrible? Yeah, I have to figure out how to share again. No. Julie, help. I can't make my screen smaller. Oh, there I go. I did it, Julie. It just by calling out Julie, help. I had what I needed. All right. All right, I'm down here on the bottom of 7, the bottom right corner, and we discussed last week that from the matriarchs, all of them, did we get the tradition, which is not really, it's more than just a tradition. It's what we do on Friday nights, where we give a blessing to our children. And we asked they should be like so and so and so and so. So the boys are Ephraim and Menashe, Yosef's sons. And when we talk to our daughters, we bench them, we give them a blessing that they should be like Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. And then my understanding, it's all of the other imahot, the women that made up, the prophetesses and the ones that built the Jewish nation. So we'll hand that out, and we'll do more on that blessing. But I just wanted to start there, that one of the mitzvot and the things that we do on Friday night is we bless our children. And so we'll learn more about it and how to do it. And then you may decide that you want to try it every once in a while if you don't already do it. Okay. And the blessing is that may Hashem bless you. That's to my child, right? Our daughters are our sons, our children, and watch over you. May Hashem shine his face towards you and show you favor. And may Hashem be favorably disposed towards you, and may he grant you peace. So that's what we'll unpack at a different time when we spend time just on that part of the choreography of our Jewish lives. But I'm going to keep reading for here. Why do we bless our daughters to be like the matriarchs? Each one of them actually grew up in a home of idolatry and immorality. Sometimes I forget about that, but when I bat mitzvah tutor, that's where it comes up because I'm teaching them at a different level than we're learning it. I'm like, well, so-and-so's father worshiped idols, and it was really interesting to see their strength and how they walked away from it. But we don't really pay attention to that when we talk about Sarah or Rivka or Rachel or Leah. But it is true that they are all from households that are different from the one that they went towards. So households of idolatry and immorality. They do not grow up learning how to be good or even knowing about God. As you will see in the coming chapters, these women honed their characters to become matriarchs of a nation that would have a tremendous positive impact to touch all of humanity, which is what our role is here, what we're supposed to do. I don't know if I would say it's our role, but it's what we're supposed to do as Jewish people, what we're supposed to bring to the world. Light unto the nations, as we're called, but also like taking the Torah and the relationship with Hashem and bringing that into the world and helping other people have access to it. Okay. Anything, comment, question? I know you guys just love to hear me go on and on and on in my fabulous speaking voice. I know it's just the most like precious way to spend an hour of your day. No comments?
Are there, do you have the prayers for those, in Hebrew?
I have them, and I'm thinking because you can find them on the web. I printed out last week a beautiful version of them, which had transliteration and English, and even some commentary, which I got from my work on here it's called the Shabbos Project, or the Shabbat Project. So, Laura, I just have to be reminded to get it to you, or you have to remind me because I'm going to forget. I feel like, but I can
Hey, wait,
send it
this
to you.
Laura has something.
Oh yeah, what do you
We
have?
got something in Derote. Can you see what I'm sharing?
Oh, I know that.
Yeah, it was so nice. And I do it each time I light candles with the girls.
Okay,
I
so
can
there are
take a
beautiful.
screenshot of it and send it.
You could. I mean, please do. But Laura, it's something worth trying once or twice. And I can imagine you've said it because sometimes we end up saying it at the bar and bat mitzvahs that we make for our children. I remember my father, Allah Shalom, said it to me under before the chuppah by my Kabbalat Panim. That's when he put his hands over my head and he said it to me. And if maybe some of you remember it also, if my father-in-law had been alive, he would have also said it to me. In my home, when Ken says it to the kids, I mean, he rolls through the older ones first. And then when he gets to my two, which stand up, and if one of my stepchildren are in the house, they also get in line. I got a 36 or a 38-year-old kid in line waiting to get their bracha from their dad. It's adorable. But my kids come right over to me, and I actually, one of those moments, I'm actually going to get a hug from my son. Going to be rare this week, but I'm going to get one. It's fabulous.
That's great. I was just going to say, when we
What?
were in Detroit,
Yeah.
I love watching my grandchildren getting the bracha from their father, but it's also very cool to watch Bob give one to Katie. And he doesn't get to do that so often.
I just got chills. Right.
I guess he could do it over the phone.
You could do it right before Shabbos over the phone.
Yeah, over the phone, right.
And also it's sometimes I think that the beauty of this class, the beauty of being in this learning mode is the awareness that it brings to more of our actions, which is the whole point of why we learn Torah. Because it's like, let me walk through my day with more intention, and I'm gonna forget, and then I'm gonna remember, I say this all the time, but last Shabbos, I've done this a couple times now after teaching. When I light, I'm like, okay, Chava, you are passing into Shabbat. It is different. I mean, this is like basic language. It is different. Pay attention. pay attention to the difference, pull in what it's about, leave out what it's not about, try to be in it versus, like just going through it, right? Going through the motions. So the blessing on our children has that too. It's not only that Hashem should do this and do this for you, but I want you connected to God. I want you connected. I want us all connected. I mean, there's so many ways to take that bracha on Friday night and really make it meaningful for us in addition to, oh, you got her? Okay. All right. So we will do more of that work. Maybe next week might be a challenge. Julie and I can talk about that. But okay. Here we go. Top left. Living in the role of the feminine does not mean being helpless. I love this author's writing. Never did I, in my learning about Judaism before, and then when I attached myself to oh, I'm doing this, like I'm going to Israel and I'm learning about this and I'm going to try and live this way, did I ever hear that we are second-class citizens or helpless or the underdog or, men have a bigger role. It's a different job, which is how I learned it, but and how I live it. But I loved this. I loved when I learned more about the power of what I have. And there are a lot of people that talk about it, but the living in the role of the feminine does not mean being helpless. Our matriarchs did not prick their fingers or eat an apple, only to fall asleep to await for the kiss of a prince. Kind of makes you wonder about what we're watching. I mean, I happen to love watching Disney, but you read this and you go maybe I should, hold on, I want to make this smaller. Okay. There's no fairy godmother waving a hand to turn pumpkins into coaches. Sadly, there are no birds to help with the housework. Our stories are about partnerships. Our matriarchs were spiritual giants who survived abductions, famines, conniving relatives, and the pain of infertility. And at the same time, they spread the teachings of oneness while building deeply personal relationships with Hashem that continue to echo meaningfully into our hearts. Okay, mouthful. I just gave you a mouthful that we just have to sit with for a second. So it's none of the fairy tale or the negative connotation that some of us have attached to Jewish life. And nobody saved us, right? We saved ourselves. We figured it out ourselves. We taught ourselves. And that is a lot of this spiritual DNA, and not only what we learn from the matriarchs, but the different mitzvot and midot that they have left, not for us going down. Julie and I talk about this, not going down, but it's like a spiritual hand-me-up, not a hand-me-down. Only because it's not down. It's so up. So anyway, they were spiritual giants. I'm going through it one more time, who survived many different hardships. And through it all, they were able to stay with the teachings of oneness, that there's one God, and there's such benefit in knowing that and living with that. And they were also able to build personal relationships with this oneness. And they left it for us, to attach to. To be a Jewish heroine, comments? Thoughts? Anybody? Bueller? No? Okay. To be a Jewish heroine, you don't need to be old enough or young enough. You are never too young or too old to make an impact. You can be a convert or be born from a Jewish mother. You can be single, married, divorced, or widowed. You may not have had any Jewish education, or you may have had much. So fast. These are the best lines. Your lineage may be Sephardic or Ashkenazic. Whoever you are, you count. Okay, so it was a little fluffy. You make a difference, and no act should be underestimated in its ability to build and redeem a nation. You will see this played out in the stories we'll explore in this book, the stories of the Imahot. And I thought about this. Oh, we'll keep going on. But I was thinking about this because it brings us back to the fact that every action we do within our Jewish realm makes a difference. and it may not look like it. Doesn't matter what age we are or what age our kids are or where we on our growth continuum or our action continuum, what we do. If one day on Erev Shabbos, on a Friday before Shabbat comes in, I lit candles because like the spirit moved me, no, because I decided it was something I was going to do. So that has an impact on our children.
Do you
If
know when this
we,
book was written? Sorry. Do you know when
yeah,
this book was written?
I will in a second. If I am about to say Lashon Hara, because I don't know, whatever, for whatever of the many reasons, and my children are near me, and I pull back, I've made a difference. I don't know, Liz. I'll get back to you. I mean, it's obviously here. Why do you ask?
Oh, you know
That
me.
you
I
don't want
have
to
a,
share?
well, I mean, it's sort of silly, but she doesn't say you can be straight or gay. And maybe she doesn't believe that.
Yeah.
And,
No,
you know,
actually,
whatever.
I wouldn't say that she does or doesn't believe it because from my understanding of her, she's a pretty funky chick. I'm not going to say that she's like, you know, well,
It doesn't
fine.
really matter. I was just curious. I was just
Well, it
forced.
matters to you. It matters to you, so it matters to me. And it's in 2019. I have a very strong feeling she's Lubavitch, or that she came up through Chabad, which has got like many different schools of thought have their own feel, their own take on it. And when you separate between non-Hasidim and Hasidim, okay, there's a whole other feel and way of learning. So I think that I'm pretty sure that that's I think that's a lot of this like loving, inclusive language. But I hear you, Liz. I don't mind you asking. 2019. Okay. Um, Whoever you are, you count. You make a difference, and no act should be underestimated in its ability to build or redeem a nation. You will see this played out in the stories we will explore. Okay. Tapping into this power does not happen all at once. You claim it, you step into it, and the nobility crowns you. With the nobility comes responsibility, moral, ethical, and spiritual. Please don't be afraid. Don't let it stop you from reclaiming. I'm moving on because I want to get somewhere. All right, this is interesting. I do this a lot with my Bat Mitzvah students because when I tutor, because this is like a shocker, like the one when we learn that God isn't Jewish. You will see as you learn about the women in Tanakh that they all made mistakes. They laughed at the wrong time, having the right intention but the wrong action. I know we'll learn who's who here. Starting off on the wrong foot or not setting a strong boundary. The mistakes themselves are a kind of archetype. Their lives were not perfect, nor did they live the happily ever after of fairy tales. They were real women facing, I'm up at the top on the right. Real challenges. Like them, we also make mistakes. We'll stick our feet in our mouths. We'll wish we had kept our mouths closed when we opened them at the wrong time in the wrong way. We'll wish we had spoken up when we were silent. Okay, I'm going to stop there now for a second. I like that because for many people and many even in this Zoom room here that it is so much easier to learn about the Jewish matriarchs and try to emulate them or try to understand what they brought to the world and what I can bring to the world when I hear they were not perfect. And somehow I can have more empathy and more respect for the fact that Sarah laughed at God when he said you're going to be pregnant. And I honestly, I would have laughed also if he would have told me you're going to be pregnant at such an old age. Okay, so I would have laughed too. But the fact that she laughed and she still was blessed and she still was able to have an impact and to help build her nation, even with all of her flaws and all the flaws of the other imahot, gives us, like in Hebrew we say chizuk or chazak, you guys know the word, strength. It gives us strength. It also gives me like I mean, when I pause, it's not because I don't know what to say. I'm like, I gotta say it the right way. I think what I'm trying to say, but it allows me to attach to this thing we call Torah and Judaism, right? It allows me to attach to it in such an easier way because I say to myself, like, hey, this is real. It is not like they said a fairy tale. No one's telling me a story. I'm talking about real people, real lives, it happened for us, to us, and it still could be happening to me in this day, for positive and for negative. So I like this, what she just said. Normally I would start with Chava. gonna start. I'm gonna go for like 10 more minutes and then I'll open it up for questions. Normally, not well, actually, that's not true. I would have started with Sarah. Sarah Imenu, who married Abraham, who was the first Jew. And then I get to this book by Leah Saul, this what that we're reading, and she starts with Chava. She starts with Chava, the first woman that was created, the first woman. So that was like so interesting to me. Like, oh, okay, none of us ever learned about Chava, ever. I mean, we say what she was. She was the mother of all creation, and she was also considered an Azer. The Torah calls her an Azer Kenegdo. She was a helpmate against him, which is super cool because what it means that her relationship with Adam, who was, I mean, I guess you would call it husband now, but it's not like they had a proper marriage. They were one body, they were separated, and they were partners. That's what I would say. Together, she was his helpmate against him, which means that she pushed him to be better. And nowhere does it say that. And he too was a helpmate against her. Does not say that. It only describes this Chava as being an Ezer Kenegdo, a helpmate against him, which mostly I think we can realize that, no, hopefully we are that for our spouses or our partners, right? I hope. She is called the Ein Kol Chai, the mother of all creation. Okay. But anyway, Chava was not who I would have started with. I would have started with Sarah. And because it's the month of Adar and we have 6 weeks till Purim, I have decided to jump ahead, very far ahead, because it's important that I think that we'll use this opportunity to learn about Esther. Who here dressed up? Okay, look, honesty, because I've said it before, but I did not ever dress up in a Purim costume because we just didn't go. And you know that about my background. And I still haven't dressed up as Esther, even in my adult years. So there's been maybe I should this year, be Esther Hamalka. Who here was an Esther Hamalka, a Queen Esther, when they went to a party? Oh, I love it. Okay, who has kids that they dressed them up in that full out white Disney princess outfit? Esther Hamalka. I think you too, Missy, over there. I think you've had an Esther Hamalka from time to time. She is a third grader. Third grade.
She was a princess. She was never Esther Malka. She was a princess.
Oh, okay. Well, I know her, so I could see her having an opinion. Okay, fine. So I taught about Esther 2 years ago. I was subbing for Allie, and it was right before the pandemic. And I remember that because I was flying home from a grandson's bar mitzvah in the airport, freaked about everybody wearing masks, and freaked about putting this class together, which was like the beginning of my teaching career in this capacity at the
It
Chaim
was
Center.
great.
Like,
I remember it was great.
oh, thank you, Liz.
Mhm.
It was great. Maybe I'll pull it back up one of these Wednesdays. Okay, I will. But when I delved into some of the literature, some by my beloved Rebbitzin teacher, Haile Pavlov, or Chava, Chaya Chava, she's switched over to her Jewish name finally. Finally, because she says that, not because I say that. But other teachers as well, I never think of Esther as like silence, which is one of the character traits that she's most, celebrated for in Jewish life. It was bravery and courage, right? Because she went to Achashverosh and she eventually stood up for the Jewish people, and they were saved through the actions of Esther. Yes, Mordecai had a hand in it, but it was Esther's actions. So it's always like bravery and courage, and yet it is really about silence. And when I say silence, I don't mean that she was silenced. I mean that she learned and she figured out with intuition where to keep her mouth shut and to stay silent and how to not be silent, how to speak up. And she did both in her experience in Bavel, or what is now called Persia. And then I'm going to say the story of Purim, but it's hard for me to only say the story because it's not just a story, happened to us, and it continues to happen. And we have to keep it in mind so we can learn from her, which is why I shifted the way from, yes, it's the story of Purim, but it's also, it happened. Okay, it's not just a story. So I'm looking at my time. That was me looking at my time. Anybody have anything you want to say? I'd like to talk heavy at the moment. Any comments? Okay. I'm trying to share. Here we go. Esther, authentic nobility. That's what it says there. But let's read a little bit about her, okay? And I like that we just left off in the other chapter about, knowing when to be silent. So the story of Esther. Esther. Megillat Esther, or the book, or Megillas Esther, if you're going to say with an Ashkenaz pronunciation. The book of, or scroll of Esther tells the story of a Jewish woman who, against her own wishes, rises to become a queen. This is not a fairy tale. There is no glass slipper and no dashing prince. She does not want either the rank or the wealth, but finds herself in the midst of a story where she is positioned to save her nation from certain destruction. The desire to save her nation triumphs in this story of twists and turns, callous intrigue, and coincidences. So before I go on, I wanna it makes me think about, I don't know, you can raise your hand, but do you find yourself in a situation where you are asked to be the bigger person? Or somebody once told me it's like I'm gonna pull my big girl pants on and rise up to the occasion. And you can, even in the quiet moments or with a very close friend, say, I don't want to. I can like have this lovely view that Chava does so much chesed and Chava, but like I'll say to you privately, I so did not want to do this one, or whatever. Like you rise up even if you don't want to. Sometimes we rise up because we want to, and it makes us feel good, or but there's a lot of times when we are asked to do the right thing, asked. And I honestly, we could say in this safe place, I don't feel like it. I so that's Esther. And she even says it in the Megillah, which we'll get to. She even actually says, not doing this. And Mordechai says to her, I'm paraphrasing. He says, look, honey, the Jewish people are going to be saved regardless of your actions. So it's up to you. You want to be in or you want to be out. So, okay, he didn't say it exactly that way, but they're saved anyway. So you have the opportunity to be the bigger person here and make a difference. It's on you, babe. You choose it. And she did. But I appreciate that she started with, I'm not up to this. This is not for me. Let's see what's in the chat here. I didn't even see. Oh, cute. I didn't even see the chat. Sorry, Liz. Okay. Megillat Esther is read every year on Purim, the holiday that falls in the spring on the full moon, so the 14th of Adar, one lunar month before Pesach on the Hebrew calendar. So Adar is the 12th month when we're counting, starting with Pesach. I know sometimes we have 4 New Years, which we've talked about, but anyway, it's the 12th month. Okay. It is a favorite holiday for many because it is full of merriment, costumes, parties, food, and drink. And also because we're taught that's what it's about. Like Purim, Queen Esther, wear a costume, okay? Bring a mask. The jolly celebrations actually embody something deeply mystical. How wonderful that such a spiritually lofty experience is accompanied by such partying. Thought that was kind of cute how she wrote that. Have you ever heard the expression, the whole Megillah? Actually, I'm going to ask you guys, has anybody ever heard that? It's like the whole Megillah. Oh, good. And if I can't see you, I'm gonna assume. I loved when I learned that, by the way, because I learned that later on. I'm like, oh, I can put that together. The Megillah, the whole Megillah. It's a whole Megillah. It's a whole story. Not gonna go into it now. It's a whole Megillah. But anyway, the whole Megillah. That's what we read. Every single word of it. It's a mitzvah to hear the whole Megillah, mamish. Exactly, like every single word. Hi, Lauren. During the reading, whenever the name of the evil character, Haman, is mentioned, everyone makes noise as if to drown out the wickedness. It's riotous fun for the children, for the kids. And in order to understand Esther and her legacy for us, okay, what she's left for us, we have to have her whole story in context. So here we go with the key characters, which we all know. Mordechai, the leader of the Jews. Esther, Mordechai's cousin or wife or niece. It's hard to know. Different commentaries, who will replace Vashti as queen, Achashverosh, king of Persia, and Haman, top advisor to the king, power-hungry, rabid anti-Semite. And there are 2 other female characters who play a smaller but significant role in the story of what happened to the Jewish people at that time. So Vashti, we know, the former queen, Achashverosh's wife, first wife, and Zeresh, who maybe some of you don't know about, Haman's wife. Oh, look, it's 5-2. I want to stop here because this is the review of the story of Purim, which I don't want to do in this capacity. I'd rather do that if we have a class on Purim and maybe we'll do a little bit of that the next time we meet because I want to get more into who Esther was and what we can learn from her. So you want to stop now. Julie, what do we do about next week? I'm traveling back from Florida.
I think next week we have to pass because I think we're en route to the airport.
All right, so
Especially
I
with it
looked it
being
up.
an hour ahead, I think we might even be
Yeah.
flying. I'm not sure.
Okay,
We're going
we're
to
getting a little better at
Amazon.
emailing. We're getting a little better at emailing to everybody that have signed up or come to this class when there's a class, when there's not a class. So getting a little bit better than just my random Canva pictures that I make and then I post. So let's hope, I mean, we'll put together an email and I'm going to outline the dates between now until Purim because we are able to have a class after the 9th all the way through February and until we get up to the to Purim, which is on a Wednesday night. So we could even learn about it that morning. It's not my job here. It depends. It depends on how much you get it. Like sometimes you get Parsha if you come to the L'chaim Center, you know, 3 or 4 times a week. You could get Parsha 4 times in a row. So the L'chaim Center has to be careful when how they schedule their classes. I mean, Parsha is great. This weekly portion is Teruma, which is to take off a tenth, you know, to Truma and Meiser, your agricultural goods, to give tzedakah. There you go. So I have to just see from Julie. I'm going to find out from who is reviewing Purim in the mitzvot. Looks like it's me here in this class. Okay. I mean, it is the choreography, so our Jewish lives.
I'm
What,
sure
Julie?
Eve will do it because that's their favorite holiday.
Oh, it
Yeah,
is?
and
That's
she
cute.
tends to go off class for the holiday and do
That's
something
nice.
for
Really?
the holiday.
But
Like she
remember
did
when
for, yeah, she did
remember
for,
when we met them and played the newlywed game and what's your
Yeah.
favorite holiday? They both put up for them.
yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
But we won't have class next week.
Okay, fine. And well, then we'll resume and then we'll get to it. Okay. You can stay here and chit chat and open your room now just because I have a little more time than I would have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.